guys, what is up? In this video, I'm going to be going into a lot of detail about my nose job, and I mean every step of the process, from why I wanted it, where I got it, places I went before I chose my doctor, the consultations, how satisfied was I with the results, and the day-to-day of the healing. So if you want a super detailed video, then this is for you because I believe in full transparency. I took notes on absolutely everything, and I'm going to talk about every aspect. I'm going to put some timestamps down below if you want to skip to different parts because this probably is going to be pretty long. But when I was trying to get a nose job, I was trying to look for the most detailed videos possible, so hopefully this will help somebody else. And I will be showing pictures as well. This was my nose before. And this is my nose after. Now, my problem wasn't like a traditional nose job problem, I feel. Like, most people go into a nose job with like a big hump on their nose from the side. That wasn't the problem. Like, my nose wasn't big. It was more so just crooked. And you can see this from like when you would look up at my nostrils, they were like very crooked. And if you were to like draw a line down the center of my face, you could see that it was like tilted towards the side. And it was really hard for me to breathe through one side of my nose as well, so I had like a deviated septum. And one piece of advice I would give to that is you can try to get like your insurance to cover part of it because it classifies as like a breathing issue. But to be honest, I didn't feel like doing all that shit, and it was like a long thing where you had to like go to an ENT doctor. I'm like, I'll just pay the money. And this was a few years ago, so the prices probably have gone up since then. I do live in South Florida, so the prices are probably kind of high around here, but not like Beverly Hills prices. But anyway, so we'll start from the beginning. So hopefully want to make this part of a larger series where I talk about every single procedure that I've gotten, because to be honest, like I naturally felt like genetically I was not attractive at all. I felt myself to be very ugly, and I kind of wanted to go about changing that in a pretty drastic way. I wanted to be hot, to be honest. It's really just that simple. Just decided I was kind of sick of being ugly. And one of the first things I noticed about myself is the crookedness of my nose. It would throw off the balance of my face. It was asymmetrical, and it really, really bothered me. So first time that I remember wanting a nose job, I was 11 years old, and this is the first year of middle school, so I feel like that's when a lot of people start paying attention more to their looks. And I just knew that I wasn't attractive, but I couldn't pinpoint like what exactly it was. There wasn't like one feature on my face that I thought was ugly. It was kind of just my face in general that I didn't like. I feel like every week I would find like a new feature about myself that I didn't like, and one week I decided like it was my nose. And so I started doing what I would call nose exercises to try to make my nose smaller. And I believe that I must have invented this because clearly nobody else was stupid enough to do some shit like this. I would basically suck in air, and I would like push down at my nose, and I would like do this throughout the day, every day, and then wonder, why do people think I'm weird? I was basically doing to my nose what people do to their double chins now by wearing weird chin straps that they get off the TikTok shop. Like, just as useless, truly. But after that year, that first initial like awkward middle school year, I didn't think about my nose for a while until I was about like 20 years old. And around that time I had cut my hair into bangs because I knew insecurity at that time was that I had a big forehead, and I thought that like getting bangs would like solve it and I would feel pretty. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. I realized that it wasn't my forehead that was making me ugly. It was just the general asymmetry of my face. And I did notice again that my nose continued to be crooked to the side. It wasn't something that I grew out of. It was actually becoming worse as I got older. But I didn't have a job back then, and I wouldn't get a job for several years. In fact, I didn't get my first job until I was 23, which is really late. I started wanting the nose job even more when I transferred from a community college to a pretty big university, and I feel like I was constantly surrounded by people who were much hotter than me, and it just bothered me even more. So I graduated in 2017, and I got my first job, and I literally had one goal in mind, which is I'm going to save every penny that I have to get a nose job. I didn't even move out of my parents' house when I graduated college. All I wanted was a nose job. I wouldn't even spend money on like makeup or anything. I wouldn't even buy food. It took me about 6 months to save enough money, and then I started doing my research on where to get a nose job in South Florida. And a few things that are important: you need to choose a surgeon who focuses only on facial surgery. If they do like boob jobs and body work, lipo mainly, you don't want to do that because they don't have like an eye for what looks good in your face as good. Like, they can do a nose job. They're certified or whatever, they have the degree, they can do a nose job, but it's not going to look as good as it would if you went to like a specialist that focuses only on the face. You're also supposed to go to at least 3 consultations. I had gone to 4, and I'm going to tell you about each and every one. And obviously I only picked one, but I feel like it's important to talk about the consultation process because some things might come up that you aren't expecting. Like, these people can be very, very pushy, and you just have to keep in mind what you're looking for when you go in. Like, it's kind of like going into a car dealership where they're gonna try to make you buy that car even if you say you're just looking. So you have to be very careful, because I feel like this is a lot more emotional decision than buying a car, and it's easy to be persuaded into something maybe you didn't initially weren't like 100% on doing. So we'll get into that. So Some consultations are free. Some of them you got to pay money for. Honestly, the better doctors are going to charge you for the consultation. And usually they'll say, if you get the surgery, we can put that $100 or $200, whatever, into the cost of the surgery. But if you don't end up going with them, obviously it's just lost money. So the first one I went to was free, and this place is actually no longer in business, but I want to tell this story anyway because it was not a great experience and something that you may encounter as well. And by the way, if I'm looking over here, it's because I have some notes. So there was a bunch of reviews saying that this particular doctor had Alzheimer's and dementia and had no clue what he was doing anymore. So that may explain my poor experience and may also be why he's no longer in business. It was Dr. Chris Reddy in Palm Springs, Florida at Plastic Surgery Center. I went in August, and I only picked this place because it was literally within walking distance of my house at the time. So I'm like, hey, why not? First consultation, free. It's right there. Why not? And like I said, usually I would only go to doctors that like specialize in the nose. He didn't specialize in nose jobs, but I figured obviously it's so convenient, I'll just go there anyway. So I wrote like in my little journal about what happened this day. I'm gonna read this to you. A nurse led me back to a back room and sat me in a chair surrounded by breast implants. She asked me what I was there for, and I told her, and she said, oh, your nose looks nice. And side note, I used to hate when people say that to me, especially when I was like in a plastic surgeon's office. They're like, oh, it looks good. It looks fine. Like, it was just so invalidating of my feelings. And they would always do it before they even like sat down and looked at it. So it's like, you can't just say that off the rip, like just looking at me. You have to actually like look at it and like see what I'm talking about when I say that it's crooked. Like, pay attention. Stop invalidating my feelings. Thank you. The doctor came in, sat me down. He asked me my concerns. I told him. And then he started to ask questions about how old I was. And he said most people come and get surgery when they were older. And this was when I was 22. I was starting to get an uncomfortable vibe. Then he asked me, what do your parents think of this? And I was thinking to myself, why the fuck does it matter? I'm 22 years old. I've been an adult for 4 years now. It's not like I'm 16. I need a parental signature to get surgery yet. Like, I'm an adult. Graduated college by this point. I felt like he was infantilized me, and I was offended by the question. I said that they thought I should do what I want, which is true. He poked around a little bit at my nose, kind of examined it, but he said the same thing as the nurse, that it looked fine, that there was a small difference, but it would not be worth it enough to fix. Then he told me that I had nice lips, and I struggled not to roll my eyes because I had had lip injections before, so that's not natural either. And he said something about not wanting me to be a plastic surgery junkie, as if he's the fucking moral police. I walked outside very awkwardly, feeling like a child who'd been kicked out of a restaurant. So that was not a pleasant experience, but like I said, you have to go to a specialist, otherwise you're going to encounter stuff like that. Also, that dude had fucking dementia, so. Next time I went to a consult was with Dr. Schwartz. This is in West Palm Beach from Palm Beach Plastic Surgery Center. And this one cost me $100. And it was a lot more professional. Everyone was so much nicer. They were like, oh, people your age come in all the time. That's the average age for people to get surgery, actually. They treated me like I was normal. Didn't make me feel like a child. And he did validate my concerns. The doctor said, you're right, your nose is going to the side. You can see it in the picture. The left side kind of pushes out and the right side goes in, and it is something that can be fixed with surgery. I know it sounds kind of weird for me to be like happy about that, but it's almost like someone's finally like telling me that I'm not crazy, and that felt good. The pricing that they gave me was $7,225. This was a few years ago, like I said, so I'm sure it's gone up since then. They showed me some pictures, computer generated, of what it would look like, or what it might look like if I get the surgery. And then he said the same thing that I used to hear from like every place that I went to. Everyone who did my makeup would say, everyone's face is a little bit asymmetrical. And it's to the point where they said that to me so often, it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to say. Like, I have an asymmetrical face. Asked some more questions before I left, and I felt like they did a really good job. Next place I went to was Dr. Steiger at Steiger Facial Plastic Surgery in Boca Raton. And they had a really nice office. This girl took me back to take the pictures of my nose, and then after she did, she said in a sing-song voice, your nose isn't that bad, like it was a joke. And it put me off so much because, like, you're invalidating my feelings, and also you're not the doctor. Why would I care about your opinion? So I sat in the room for a little bit. Dr. Steiger came in. He was very professional. He was funny. He was nice. He was also very realistic. He did tell me that my nose was slightly crooked, although he said it's the best he's seen all day and not that bad. He said it was because of my cartilage, and he explained that I had thick skin. He said he couldn't get the nose perfectly straight, but he could improve it, and the price tag on that one was $9,550. And I think it has to do with the location as well. Boca Raton is like a very ritzy area, a little bit more so than West Palm, so even though it's only like 30 minutes away, the price was a big difference. Fourth consultation I went to was in Palm Beach Gardens. This one cost $250. It was Dr. Murphy at Palm Beach Facial Plastic Surgery. And they actually told me ahead of time that it was going to be about $9,000 for the surgery. So usually they wait until after the consult to tell you that, but this time they told me before, and it kind of comes into play. I'll explain. So this is the one where it got like a little bit weird and what I would caution people to look out for. So I got there, consultation lady, I forget what they call them. Usually they call them like a patient care coordinator. And usually these people are like very attractive because like they're basically advertising for the business. So they got like this really tall, skinny, Middle Eastern looking lady, very well dressed, hair super nice. They took some pictures, asked you what you would expect, normal stuff. And I'm gonna read exactly what happened here because I was like shocked at the time and I wrote down exactly what everybody said so I wouldn't forget. So she said to me, there's gonna be a 20% refundable deposit to reserve your surgery date. And I wasn't 100% sure yet that this is who I wanted to go with. So I said, oh, I might wanna wait on that. She said, well, then you won't be able to reserve a date. And I said, oh, that's fine. And she got real quiet. And it was so awkward. I specifically remember this. It will never leave my mind. We were just sitting there staring at each other and I was like, and she was like, almost like silently scolding you, like when the teacher kind of catches you cheating on a test type of thing and just stares at you until you put your pencil down. Like, very uncomfortable moment. So she just like turns this manipulation mode on that I was like not expecting. It was very jarring and weird. She's like, well, what's stopping you from making the surgery? And I'm like, well, I went to a couple other consults and it was a little bit cheaper, so that's the main reason. And she said, oh, we can lower the price for you. And I was like, oh, okay, seriously? Okay, sure. And I had this paper that said like $9,000 quote on it or whatever. So I'm like, oh, are you gonna like make a new paper that says the new quote on it? Because like I'm not signing anything with like the wrong price amount on it. And she's like, sure. She printed out a new one for $7,500, which was $1,500 less than the original quote. So obviously I'm a little bit like suspicious because nothing in this world is free, and usually you gotta look pretty suspiciously at discounts as well. People don't do just things out of the kindness of their hearts, especially in a business. So she started talking about how sometimes we'll do this to people we really like. You remind me of my little sister, and you remind the doctor of his daughters. And I'm like, and then she started telling me the story about how this 16-year-old boy was like bullied for his nose, and his mom was a single mom, and like they did the same thing for her so that they could help him. And like, you're so hardworking. You work for so long to earn the money to do this. And it was just like very, very weird, very manipulative vibes. And it's like, you know, now I could look at it and be like, wow, that was so weird. But in the moment when I'm like 22 or 23, you're kind of just like in shock at the moment. And so I said something about like, oh, I can't believe this. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, maybe if I were you, I would just take it and stop asking questions then. And gave me like this little smarmy little smile. And I just felt like so ridiculous because I'm always like, you know, kind of making fun of people who get suckered into like buying timeshares or like pyramid scheme scams. But like, here I am in the same situation getting like suckered into something. I mean, it was something I already wanted. Like, I knew 100% that I wanted a nose job. But just the way that they manipulated me into like booking an appointment right then and there, it just comes off as very like, very gross. I don't know. I don't like the way that that was went about. But either way, I put down $1,500 deposit, signed my card, and it was so funny. So when I was signing the iPad to like sign the $1,500 deposit over, it actually froze the screen. And this crazy ass surgical coordinator takes the iPad and starts like jamming down on this button, trying to get the screen to unfreeze. She wanted that fucking, I don't know, she got like a percentage of that. I'm assuming she did. She wanted her cut, okay? And eventually it worked and she got it, but like, so stupid. So they set my surgery date for February 28th. It was 3 weeks away from that day. And yeah, I had made my decision, but I felt like it was just like, the decision was kind of like manipulated out of me or taken out of my hands a little bit, which wasn't a great feeling, but I was still excited about the surgery. The doctor was really nice. Like, I didn't have any problem with the doctor at all. It was just with the surgical coordinator that I had like a problem with. But yeah, so 3 weeks later, it's the day of the surgery. And I remember when I went in that day, they made me do a pregnancy test because of my age and my gender. And I remember I was on my period and a nice big clump of period blood fell into the test, and I'm like, sorry. But it was obviously negative. They gave me a hospital gown and socks. They said I could keep my pants on, just take off my shirt and shoes and put the gown over it. They asked me some more questions. I signed some more papers. They gave me some kind of medicine to put under my tongue and let it dissolve, which was absolutely disgusting. The nurse anesthetist came and put the IV in my arm. Then we were waiting for a really long time. I think it was over an hour, and I'm just sitting there with this thing in my arm, not very comfortable. They lead me to the operating room, and there's like all these wires and these machines, this like chair that's like you lie flat on. It was like covered in pillows, and as I'm looking around getting like all nervous because there's all like this machinery around me, they hooked me up to the IV. I felt like this cold stuff running up my veins, and I was out. First thing I remember is the nurse was joking about like how she put my hair in a messy bun, and she said your nose came out really nice, but I couldn't see it yet because there was a cast on it. And then as my mom was driving me home, I remember in the car feeling really like in a good mood. I'm sure because of all the drugs they gave me during the surgery. I even remember saying, I'm like, oh my God, I feel good enough to go to work right now, which is fucking crazy, but the Fenty must have been hitting. And I had a cast on my nose, I'll put some pictures, gauze under my nose to collect the fluids, and a bruise under my left eye. I ate, and then as a few hours went by, I was feeling like a little bit of pain in my nose and my throat, so I took they gave me oxycodone, I took one of those, which basically made me pass out, and I remember when I woke up, I had a little bit of a headache, I took some medicine for that, passed out again. So throughout that night, I guess the night of day 1 leading into day 2, I remember constantly waking up in the middle of the night because I felt like I had to moisten my throat because it was getting so dry because I was breathing through my mouth as I was sleeping. Usually you breathe through your nose, or you're supposed to, but obviously you couldn't with all the gauze under it and the swelling. I had a post-op appointment with the doctor, so I was driven to that, and they basically cleaned all the gross dried blood out of my nose, which made me feel way more comfortable. And I remember asking the doctor, like, why I had such bruising on one of my eyes and not the other one. And he said, your septum was pretty deviated pretty badly. That was a side that we had to work on more, so that's why it bruised that much more. And I'm like, oh my god, validating what I knew all along, which is that I had a deviated septum. And I noticed when I was going to change the gauze under my nose, because I would change it every once in a while so it didn't get all nasty, that my nostrils were like way more even than they used to be, which made me so happy. So that was day 2. Day 3, I was finally allowed to take a shower, which felt so nice. You couldn't shower for the first couple of days. And the doctor's office had actually sent like these flowers to my house, which I thought was really sweet of them. Like, after that lady was super manipulative, I actually had no issues with them after that. It's like, once I got your money, we're all real cool. So they tell you that days 3 and 4 are the worst after surgery, and that was pretty much true. I felt like a lot of pressure on my face. Like, I felt like someone was squeezing my nose shut. And there was stitches as well, which kind of hurt. So I took another one of the oxycodones, which always knocked me out because I have no tolerance for that stuff whatsoever. And my cast was getting super itchy around this time, I remember. So day 4, the pressure on my nose is more than a little bit painful. The sutures were stinging, the stitches. And my hair was getting disgusting because you're not supposed to get the cast wet, so I was afraid to wash my hair. So what my dumbass did, instead of just asking for help, was I put like saran wrap all on my face. Or at least like on my nose, so I could still breathe through my mouth. And I like bent over the tub and tried to wash it myself. It was a whole ass mess. Don't do that. Just get like your friend or your parent to help you. And I got water all over the bathroom too. And during this time, I'm not really like getting up out of bed or exercising that much, by the way. I'm pretty much just sitting around watching TV and whatnot, reading books, getting like little tiny errands done, doing some online shopping that's been put off while I was working. So day 5, I had another post-op appointment. They cut the stitches out of the middle of my nose because they had like cut it here. And they don't always do that for a nose job unless it's like one of the ones that they need to do more work on. Like if you have a deviated septum, I think they have to like cut this area right here. So you can kind of see the scar right there. And no one sees it because when you're facing someone like this, it's like under there. But there is a little scar and there was like stitches holding it closed. And they told me ahead of time to take the oxycodone medicine before that appointment because it was probably going to hurt. But I was just so glad that they were taking them out because like every once in a while the stitches would send like these little zaps of like stinging pain up through my body, and that was not cool. That didn't feel very nice. They said that I could sleep more on my side now because I usually slept on my side, but that it would probably swell more if I slept on my side. The doctor also cleaned a little bit the inside of my nose with a Q-tip. I think he used like, I don't know, hydrogen peroxide or something like that. Oh, and even though they took the main stitches out that were right here on my nose, there was still dissolvable stitches on the inside of my nose that I was not allowed to like touch and that the doctor was not going to take out. It just kind of dissolves over time. So that night was the first time that I slept throughout the entire night, thank God. I still had a little bit of a headache, my nose was still a little bit sore, and I felt like pressure and swelling still, but I did feel way better moving into day 6. I could breathe through my nose, so my throat wasn't nearly as dry, and by the evening, I almost felt like back to normal. Day 7, again, I'm feeling pretty much myself again, besides the pressure from the cast, because the cast is still on. And I didn't have those things that they stuff up your nose. They never stuffed any like cotton up my nose or anything like that. I think it's like an old style nose job that does that. And that was also the first day that I was able to like walk around. I didn't climb right into bed right after I took a shower. So day 8, this is when I got my cast off, so I was super excited for that. He soaked the cast in like this liquid that actually smelled kind of good for some reason, and then was taking off like each layer by layer. And honestly, I was almost happier for that cast to come off than I was to see my nose. I was so sick of that cast. So they gave me a mirror, and like shape-wise, it was pretty much exactly what I asked for. You could tell from, I'm going to show pictures, from the right-hand side, you can see I have the slope now that I didn't used to have. It was a lot more symmetrical, a lot softer looking, it was less angled, it was sticking out less from my face. And I was super pleased with it. I thought they did an awesome job. I'm still happy with it to this day. Now, when you have an asymmetrical nose like I have, they're not going to be able to get it exactly like perfect. And I knew that going in. And you can even see on like Hailey Bieber, who kind of started off with the asymmetrical nose, even hers is not like perfectly aligned. So it's not something that they could do to get it like exactly perfect. But I was still super happy with it. And one thing I did notice is that I did like it better from the right hand profile view than the left. So in the right hand, you can see how it's like, has that little slope there. Whereas in the left, it's, they got rid of like the tiny little hump that I had there, but it doesn't really have like that as cute of like a slope as the right hand side does. But it doesn't really bother me that much. Like, as long as they made it more even and they made it, like, overall smaller and got rid of a little bump and gave me a little slope, I'm totally happy with it. I also noticed that when they took the cast off, my nose was, like, so sticky and sweaty and oily and had, like, whiteheads on it. And I'm like, oh, no! And they did give me a free hydrofacial at that office, which I did, like, way after, you know, a couple months after the nose job completely healed. And they did a facial to kind of clean it out, I guess. And then I thought I was going to be able to just go home at this point, but they're like, oh, we're going to put some tape on for the swelling. And I'm like, oh, we're putting more stuff on my nose? I thought that was over, but no, they wanted to put like some surgical tape on my nose to keep like the swelling down. And I almost told them, can you please not do that? But I didn't want to argue against them. And I had planned to like finally get out of the house the next few days and like get some stuff done, but now that I had like this tape all over my nose, I'm like, well, now I don't want to do it. I mean, obviously you could go out however you want. You could go out with surgical tape if you want to, but I just can't deal with like the looks from people. I don't want people asking me anything, so I'm like, no, I'm still not going to go outside. And I also had the bruise still under my eye, so I just didn't really want to go around looking like a domestic violence victim, to be honest with you. So I had another excuse to stay inside a few more days, which I was not that mad about. But one thing they did say is that you can't get the surgical tape wet either, so I'm like, hey, I still can't really wash my face. I mean, you could wash around it, but I just felt my nose was getting like so gross under all this cast and tape. But now that the cast was off, I was at least able to clean like the inside of my nose with the Q-tip, which did help my OCD a little bit. So day 9 and 10 were normal. I felt pretty normal, but I just didn't want to go outside with all the tape on my nose, so I continued to sit inside and play like Stardew Valley. Day 11 is when I had to go back to work, and I had to peel off the surgical tape. I was able to peel it off, but it left like this nasty sticky residue that was hard to clean off because touching your nose at that point, it still really hurt to touch my nose. So I had to be so gentle trying to clean it off. And yeah, so that was my experience getting a nose job from the consult to the surgery to all the days after it. And to this day, it's been several years now, and I'm still totally happy with it, especially from the right-hand side. Love the view from the right-hand side. It's continued to stay even, and I have heard that like cartilage has memory and that it can like shift back, because like if you had braces as a kid and you don't wear your retainer, your teeth will shift back. So I wondered, since they straighten the cartilage on the inside of my nose, will my nose shift back? And I don't think it has. I mean, like I said, it's still not perfectly symmetrical. It never will be, but it's good enough that I'm like super happy with the results. Like 9 out of 10 for sure. And the front view is a lot better too. Another thing I will say, advice, ask for your before and after pictures right away. Because, like, even though these people were, like, nice after I paid them and everything, it's almost like they don't want to give you your pictures, or, like, they don't really care as much about you after you get the surgery done and everything's over with. It's like, I don't want to say they don't want to help you, because, like, they're willing to help you, but it's like, there's some of these places that I've gotten, like, other surgeries done. No, it's like they don't want to give you your pictures, and I'm like, no, give me my pictures. And as for my nose feeling, like, sore to the point that it was hard to touch, that only lasted for, like, maybe a couple more weeks. After that, the only precaution that I noticed I had to take was, I know these are bad, but I like to use these little pimple popper things to like pop like the whiteheads on my nose and all around my face. I would say be very careful with this if you had a septoplasty. So rhinoplasty is when they change your nose. Septoplasty is specifically when they change this thing in the middle of your nose, like when you have a deviated septum. I would be careful with that, because like I remember I was like popping pimples in the side of my nose and I almost felt like it was like moving, and then it hurt for a second and then it kind of popped back, and I'm like, okay, I'm never doing that again. So if I have to pop any pimples in the side of my nose, you gotta kind of like go like that a little bit, and like just to make sure that you're not putting pressure on this little thing in the middle of your nose, your septum. Is that what you call it? Your septum. So yeah, that was my nose job experience. Go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to post some more videos about every other cosmetic thing that I've had done. I've had a lot of, I've had cool sculpting, Kybella. I had this really shady Kybella where it was like kind of botched. I've had liposuction, and I would love to share my experience because I feel like a lot of people don't go into as much detail as I would like to see when I'm trying to look at videos. So subscribe down below for more plastic surgery videos, and I will see you next time.